I'm so happy to be here today with Ron Bowen. Ron, thank you so much for joining me. Can you tell me how you're feeling?
I'm feeling great, Todd, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, this is a real honor and a privilege. I had the joy of podcasting your wife, Jo Stewart, a couple episodes back, number 273. And in the conversation, she had spoke so much about the role that you've been able to play in helping her with teaching yoga, getting your studio going, having an online platform that I just was piqued my interest. I really excited to have this chance to meet you and speak with you. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. Glad to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you work with technology and
hmm
you also are a yoga teacher and you've been
hmm
able to blend these two skills together. Can we start first with the technology side? Can you give me a little bit about your background and how you have come to this point where I'm gonna say that you feel comfortable with technology. Would that be an assumption that's fair to make?
I think that that's pretty fair to say. I guess I've worked as a software developer or a web developer for about 20 years now, so
Wow.
I've got a bit of experience there, and in some ways, I still feel like very much a learner, a beginner. But it's something I've always really enjoyed working with, really enjoyed doing. From when I was pretty much a kid, I don't know if you know these computers, but because they're English in origin. But back when I was a pretty young kid, I had a ZX Spectrum, so I'd programmed that using BASIC. It had a little rubber keyboard, so I was, and 48K of RAM. So, very, very, very basic, very primitive, but a lot of fun. And I guess technology has, become well beyond that since then. And but it's something I really enjoy doing and really enjoy, solving problems and getting into things like that.
Oh, that's cool, man. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Aotearoa, New Zealand, originally from a small town on the west coast of the North Island of New Zealand called New Plymouth. It's, it's it's a pretty quiet little town, very pretty. But currently I'm living here in Australia in Melbourne.
Nice. What age did you move to Australia?
I've lived here for about, I think, since 2007, so about, I guess, 16, 17 years, something like that.
Nice, nice. Did you meet Jo in Australia? Did she travel to New Zealand and that's where she met you?
Funny story. So I met her when I was living in Australia. We actually met at a mutual friend's child's first birthday. Um, so yeah, that was a fun time. But it turned out that this mutual friend of ours, we were both at her wedding in New Zealand prior to that, and we did
Ah,
not know. So, so we
wow.
probably met each other, but didn't even know, didn't even recognize each other.
That's cool. It's almost like the universe is like, you guys got to get together. And then the first
Yeah,
try, it didn't happen. So it's like, wait a minute, this needs to
yeah,
happen. This
exactly,
needs to happen. That's awesome.
exactly. Yeah.
That's Well, having 20 years in the tech world, and I mean, how do you even make sense of the advancements that have occurred based off of like what you're talking about, like your first interaction with beginning to work with computers and having a fascination for them and the level that they were at 20 years ago and where we are now today? Could you even imagine that? And or how are you processing the rapid speed of development that's going on?
I mean, it's pretty wild, actually. I mean, now I essentially work every day with AI tools. And that's something that was just science fiction when I was growing up. You'd see a TV show with a little talking robot or, someone, I don't know, maybe talking to a computer and thinking, that's just a fantasy. It's not going to happen. But now it's
Yeah.
something we kind of do on a daily basis. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, great point. There's so much talk about either fear around it or optimism. And I know that it seems to me that we can fall into that sort of either fear or love spectrum all day long with every single subject or topic that comes up. And I just getting a sense that you're more on the side of seeing the optimism because you're working with it regularly. Can you talk a little bit about why you think that is, and or if anyone listening has the skeptical opinion about it, what would be your rebuttal in relation to your choice to use and work with it?
I think it is a very complex topic, and though I may sound quite optimistic about it, have, I feel, a pretty good understanding of all the negative consequences that are happening around it. There's many, I guess, people who have encountered what they're calling AI psychosis. So maybe getting a little bit too much positive feedback from the AI tools that is sort of, I guess, leading them astray. That's not a good thing.
Mhm.
There's also, I think, also that AI companies themselves are responsible for a lot of kind of excessive hype, and a lot of their marketing is in fact fear-based. So by saying that they're going to put, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of developers out of work, that's obviously a fear-based marketing idea. And I think time is showing that that's not necessarily what's happening.
Ah, that's
In fact,
fascinating.
in fact, there's actually been a slight rise in developer hires or developer job postings lately. And I think that as far as developers go, at least it's actually, if it's used correctly, it's a tool that can help you, but it does have its pitfalls, and you can't really just believe the AI or what it's doing is correct. You really need to sort of test your code and kind of still continue to follow best practices when it comes to developing software. And I think AI can help with that too. So in addition, you can also use it to sort of learn more about what you're doing. So you can ask it questions and get answers, and then you can test out those answers. And so I think it's very powerful. There's obviously other, I guess, problems, around water usage, power consumption, especially when data centers are set up in urban areas. And I think this is more a problem in the United States than, say, Australia, but uh, a lot of, I guess, municipalities and state governments will give a lot of incentives to data centers to turn up. So that's public money going towards uh, this private industry, which is not such a good thing. So as I said, we don't have as much of that here. So I guess it's just a lot of things that we need to be mindful of, and it's just a tool like any other, but I guess if it's in the wrong hands, it can have bad consequences. So yeah.
Wow, Ron, I hear you. Well said. I mean, first of all, the fact that you brought up this is a concept I haven't really thought about yet, but that the actual developers of the AI are utilizing the fear concept as a marketing tool. And I'm just kind of I want to just try to understand how this can work. So, like in the idea of like if I'm creating this, but then I'm creating this fear that all these jobs will be lost, would that you feel like that drives people to use AI more than knowing that there is the potentiality for that type of situation? Or can you explain, I guess if I were to put it in relationship to say like cigarette companies, if a cigarette
hmm
company is selling cigarettes and then but on the box they put, I mean, the government puts a label that says this could kill you. And we would always think that would deter. But I guess in a sense, if we were to relate it like that, maybe we could say that that warning almost helps sell the cigarettes, which is such a bizarre concept, right? Like that the fear, the danger of it would be maybe what if I really analyze why I'm doing what I'm doing, maybe that would be the reason why I'm doing it because I want death to come a little quicker or I want to suffer a little bit through the so I just I'm trying to understand how that could work.
I mean, I guess when they say that it's going to put a lot of people out of work, they're kind of appealing to CEOs or large corporations who have, an impetus to lower their costs when it comes to hiring people. And a lot of the big layoffs that have, in my opinion, but a lot of the layoffs that have been happening lately in tech, like say Oracle, for example, are basically they're saying it's AI, but really it's because they've borrowed money to finance AI.
Ah,
So they
got
need
it.
to
Interesting.
spend less money on
Oh.
hiring people. So I think that's where the they're not so much trying to appeal to people's fear, but they kind of are using it
I
as
see
leverage.
now. I see
And
that.
and I guess you could also take the angle that if you're worried about your job, you're not as likely to ask for a pay rise, or you're not as likely to
Ooh.
be.
Ooh. So many
Yeah, I
angles.
don't know if I'm
So
being
many.
conspiratorial here, but yeah,
No, no, I hear you. That's cool, man. I really appreciate you enlighten me to those ideas. Thank you. Well, I mean, I guess then to turn a little bit of a corner here, we're recording a podcast right now. And you're right. When I grew up watching the Jetsons cartoon, this idea of talking to you on the other side of the world and having the ability to also share it through these channels is mind-boggling to me. And so you have developed a platform called Sound Made Scene, and which helps podcasters. Can you talk a little bit about what the platform is and how it came to be that you designed it?
absolutely. Well, I guess Joe and myself, we host our own podcast, the Flow Artist Podcast, and one thing that kept on coming up for me is when I was trying to, I guess, let people know about the podcast, often I'd started making little videos to help promote it. And quite often I at the time I was using Final Cut Pro, and so I'd find a little section of the podcast that I wanted to use, and then I'd find an image I wanted to use, and then I'd sort of subtitle it. But I had to do it all manually, so I had to sort of put in some titles, some words, and then sort of sync it up with the audio and rah rah rah. And that was a very time-consuming task. And at the time, there are other platforms around. There's things like Wave or Headliner, which do a similar thing. But being a developer and being someone who loves a project, I decided why not make something yourself? So I started on Sound Made Scene, and what Sound Made Scene does is it does a few t things, but one of the main things it does is that you can upload your podcast after you've recorded it, and then it will transcribe it, and then it can analyze it and determine which parts you most like to share. And then it can make little clips out of those and then convert them into little videos. And then you can just publish them on social media and it's all done. And you can share them with your guests as well. And I just found it's a nice, easy way to get things out there. So I built that into Sound Machine. There's some other tools as well. And you can also use it to write your podcast show notes, and you can sort of choose from a few different, I guess, tones. I guess you want to be careful there. There is a lot of content out there that's obviously created by AI. They don't call it slop for no reason at all. So what I like to do, I like to think of it as a bit of an inspiration that I can then use to sort of write the full podcast show notes or social media posts, that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
I've found it's a pretty fun to use and convenient tool that really saves me a bit of time, even though I've spent hours and hours working on it.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Is it has it taken a little bit of momentum in relation to people utilizing it? Are you noticing any feedback from users? How has that evolved for you?
Yep.
How long has it been on the market now?
It's been online for about, I guess, since 2024, so a couple of years. It's actually available on AppSumo. I'm not sure if you heard of AppSumo, but it's a sort of online marketplace where you can buy lifetime deals on software.
Cool. I'll go
Um,
check it out.
eh,
AppSumo, do you call it?
yep,
AppSumo.
that's correct. Yes.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
And so you can get a lifetime deal, and I've actually got quite a few customers through that, and people seem happy there, and they keep coming back. So,
Nice.
um, and the thing is always evolving though, and people are asking for new features. And another feature I've added recently, this isn't so much for podcasters, but it's something that sort of scratches my itch, is that you can kind of upload music and then it will kind of determine the beats, and then from there you can sort of generate a video with effects in the background like fireworks or other different things like that, and
Cool.
they'll
Cool.
be aligned with the music. So
Got
that's
it.
another cool little feature it does.
Nice. You know, I'm so curious because I'm not a developer. How do you get a platform like yours to analyze a transcript and know what potentially would be interesting? Are there certain keywords that trigger curiosity, fascination, from the human side? How do you do that? Like, how is that even done? Does it, I'm just trying to wrap my head around all of it. I do enjoy using these tools, and it's made podcasting for me so much easier in relation to all the editing and the publishing component. So I'm a fan, and to be very honest, Ron, when a long time ago when I was young, like when I was in my early 20s, I was at that place in my life where I said I'll never use a computer. Like I had this sort of vision that like computers were going to be the worst thing for the world, and I'm going to make a vow that I'll never touch one, which is a crazy thing to even like. I don't know why I was there in my life that I thought that, but now I use it so much, and I have to laugh at myself that I've, really was scared of all this stuff and didn't know where it would lead, and now I'm such an avid user. I guess I say that too because I know there's a potentially a listener that might think I wouldn't be able to use this stuff, that might be too difficult, or it seems like so overwhelming in relation to trying to get some of this stuff going. So I guess from your experience navigating this field, what sort of advice and or encouragement could you give someone who maybe is skeptical and or nervous about starting their own platform, the reasons why you think it's a good idea to do it?
I think it's healthy to be skeptical, um, and quite, I think that's a good thing. I think if you're trying to work on something like this, for me, I think the essence is to be playful with it. Um, you have to, I guess, be a little bit serious, but I think you've got to just like
Good
anything you
point.
do, you've got to give yourself room to fail sometimes, and I think that's okay. I'm not sure I'm answering this question that well, but um, yeah, I think I what I try and do is just have fun with what I'm doing, and it's the same way I was with podcasting. I knew when I started doing that it's something that I wouldn't start off being good at. I'm probably not that great at now. I think Joe's actually a lot better than I am. But I think you've just got to have fun with it. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. I think that's actually a really good answer. That's a great answer, actually, because it does seem sometimes so serious and or overwhelming. So I hear you. Just come at it from a fun place straight away. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm also curious too. You had made mention that you have now designed Guest Made Simple, also with the solutions based mind frame of, hey, I have a problem. How could we fix it? Can you talk a little bit about what this platform is and how it can help us.
Absolutely. So I guess a problem we've had on our podcast multiple times is, you know, it can be kind of hard sort of getting together with a guest. So first you've got to sort of get the information you need from the guest. So like their bio, maybe a headshot that you can use. You might have some questions you want to ask them before the interview. So what I've done, I've built a system that can do that. And then the next thing I find rather difficult is you have to organize a time. And when you're working across time zones, that can be a long, convoluted process. So, as I mentioned to you before, as we're organizing the time to do this episode, I was thinking this could be so much simpler with Guest Made Simple. And what that essentially lets you do as a host, you can say, I'm available at these times. And once you've vetted your guests, you can just send them the list of availabilities and then they can go, oh, okay, I'll choose this time, or maybe they can suggest a time and then you can sort of work that out through the app as well. And then once the podcast episode is actually published, you can um, automatically send a guest kit to the guests, and that might have some clips that were generated with the sound made scene, or maybe it has a transcription or just little snippets that they can share on social media to help both of you out. And I think, in my opinion, this will would bring the time involved down quite a bit because I personally find, yeah, one of the I wouldn't say annoying, but it can take up a lot of time. Just going through the whole steps of creating a podcast episode. So that's something I'd like to bring down as much as possible.
Oh man, Ron, yes. I'm glad you're bringing attention to all this. I think that's huge. That is one of the big challenges, you're right, in relation to the whole scheduling process, the ability to capture the information that we need, to be able to send or share larger files. It does take a lot of work. I love the way you're thinking, and that I think would make it a little bit more fun. That probably is part of the stuff that makes people say, "It's too much work, man. It's just too much work." So I see why you're doing what you're doing because that would make this a little bit easier and enjoyable.
Well, that's the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah, right? Well, can you talk a little bit about what the podcasting experience for you has been like in relation to your own learning and development?
hmm So the podcast came about, it was shortly after I had actually finished my yoga teacher training. So I was doing my yoga teacher training, and that was taking up pretty much all my spare time. So once I'd finished that, I realized I had a lot more spare time left over. So I thought, why not fill that up with another project? And I was talking with Jo about it. And I think poor Jo, because she's been a yoga teacher for many years, but pretty much every night before we'd go to bed or to sleep, I'd start asking her questions or wanting to have discussions about yoga. And
Yes.
right when she just wanted to read her book or go to bed. So poor Jo, but thanks so much to her for putting up with me. But we decided, well, why don't we actually start a podcast, talking to some of our favorite yoga teachers, both here and around the world. And that's basically what we did. And it's still going. We're still talking to yoga teachers and people of all different types of expertise and subjects that we want to talk about. So that's been a real great process for us because we got to actually talk to a bunch of awesome people, sort of indirectly as a result of that as well. Jo got to write and publish a book, and which has just come out. So that's all very exciting. And yeah, it's been a great experience for us, and so many different learnings and meeting so many different people. It's been amazing.
Oh, that's so cool, Ron. For those of you that had a chance to listen to the episode with Joe, you'll remember that she was talking about her Eight Limbs of Aerial Yoga book. Ron, can you tell me a little bit about your role in the writing of that book and or creation of that book? Like what sort of assistance were you able to offer?
I guess my assistance was a bit more of a background. I'm in a lot of the photos in the book, and I guess I worked as a sounding board for Joe for a lot of it. But to be honest, she did, she wrote the book. She researched it.
Right.
It was mostly her, and yeah, all credit to her. She's done an amazing job in my opinion. I actually think it's a huge accomplishment.
Oh man, I agree, Ron. Have been wanting, I would love to write a book, but I think that ta the daunting component of it has always kept me at bay. So I agree with you. That is a huge accomplishment. That's really cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, and we're really excited. We just got the author's copies now, so we finally got to see what it looks like in print. And in my opinion, it's a beautiful book. So and I think it'll be great for all yoga teachers. It's mainly about aerial yoga, but it uses the eight limbs obviously as a nice framework to actually demonstrate all the different benefits that aerial yoga has. And I think it's a I think the aerial hammock is a great useful tool for yoga teachers and therapists in general. So yeah, I guess I'm biased though. So
Right? Yeah, you have a lot of contact with it and you've been able to be in and around it so much. I hear you. That's cool though. I know it sounds amazing. I can't wait to check it out. Can you tell me what your for how you got into yoga? What were the circumstances and or what what was the where did you how did you find yourself on a mat, yoga mat? Maybe was the first way you started with yoga, or maybe there was a different entry point. I'm curious.
yep. I guess many years ago, um, when I was still living in New Zealand, I did a few Ashtanga yoga classes just around the corner from my house. I still remember my first class. I think I probably fell over at one point. It was
Yeah.
really quite intense.
Who was it with? Because
Oh, so long ago.
okay, fair
His
enough.
name was Bill back in New Zealand in Wellington.
Yeah,
He
gotcha.
was a great guy actually, but I kind of dropped off from that from many years. But then obviously I met Joe over here, and Joe's been a yoga teacher for about 20 years or something like that. And I started, having a bit more of an interest in yoga, so I do yoga with her, and we'd go to retreats and do all sorts of fun stuff. But I guess about 15 years ago, I was actually diagnosed with stomach cancer and discovered that my stomach had to be removed. And during that whole process, yoga was actually really useful for me. And before the surgery, a local yoga teacher at another studio near us actually gave me free classes for a while, which was very kind of them. I'm very grateful to that. And I think just during my whole treatment and recovery, yoga was a very powerful tool, both physically and for I guess, the mental and the spiritual aspects. Because at one point, uh, I received a diagnosis that the cancer had become terminal. Um, it did actually turn out that that diagnosis was completely incorrect, but
Wow.
there were a few weeks there that I actually thought I was going to die. And I think yoga philosophy actually helped me through that a little bit as well.
Wow. Wow, Ron. Wow. I believe it. What uh what was it like when you heard the information that we're sorry, we made a misdiagnosis or a miscalculation here and you aren't in a terminal state? What was that like? I mean, how do you process all that?
Well, it was a different doctor that told me, that it was a mistake. So I guess my feeling was just relief,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
gladness.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so
And what
no, I was
the different doctor in the sense that there wasn't any upset. You're not like, the anger wasn't the emotion that came up of like, how could you have made me live or told me that and had me live through these last 4 or 5 or however many weeks it was, thinking this is it. And I guess to go back a little bit on that, I'm curious, what do you do when you have that sort of information? I mean, do you start reaching out to your friends and family? Did you go I don't get the feeling, I mean, I don't get the feeling that you went into a depressive state, but I would think it would put you in some type of, I don't know. I'm so curious. What type of state of mind did that put you in?
I guess when Joe and I were both told the news that they thought I was going to die. We left in a bit of shock. We were both, I guess, a bit shell shocked. And I think we found a kind of a nearby park or something like that and just held each other and cried. Um, and then after that, we came home and then I rang my parents back in New Zealand. And that was very difficult.
Oh man.
Um,
Oh man, I can
um,
imagine.
yeah, my mum at the time was in the early stages of dementia as well, so it was kind of hard explaining to her what was happening.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, that period of time was a bit rough. Um, but yeah, um, I guess the thing, we got through it. We got to, you know, I we got a second opinion. They did another scan that turned out was a lot more accurate and turned out everything was okay. So,
Wow. Wow. Yes.
so
You know,
yeah, so that was good. There's a story with a happy ending.
yeah, I appreciate you being honest and open about all that. That's maybe not, probably not the easiest topic to discuss. So I really appreciate your honesty with that. I remember the first time I met someone who had been diagnosed with cancer, and I was really young, and I remember she was going through chemotherapy and the whole process of watching her go through that, and as a child trying to even come to terms with what does this mean, and life and death and some of the heavier questions that we all have to grapple with throughout life. It really got me thinking deep about what it would be like to go through that. So, and one of the things I hear from folks is that it brings this incredible appreciation and gratitude for every moment, or a deeper sense of appreciation for life. Can you share any insights into that side of it as well, or what you've noticed in relation to that?
I think, yeah, definitely it gave me a lot more of an appreciation for life. I think at the time, I'll be honest, I think at the time I did find it hard to find gratitude, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, I think there is the possibility to, feel a little bit sorry for yourself. Why is this happening to me? Why, or and even though I knew I wasn't going to die, I'd still lost my stomach, so there was a period of adjustment to that as well. Um, so I'm not going to say I became this um, transcendent angel after the surgery, but um, it did, I guess, drive me more to just, I guess, do things that I wanted to do, if that makes sense. So I
It
guess
does.
that's why I sort of like, okay, I'm going to start this project now. I'm going to do this just because I know I'd like, why not?
Yeah. Great point. Great insight. Can you fill me and the listener in a little bit, Ron, on what it's like to live without a stomach? How does this work? How hunger? What happens there? How do you what does that feel like? Where? I've never even contemplated this, to be very honest. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like? Unless it's too personal, I totally understand.
No, no, it's absolutely fine. I guess as far as hunger goes, I find I'm actually always hungry, if that makes sense. So when they remove your stomach, they essentially bring the esophagus down slightly, and then they bring up the small intestine, and they kind of build a little bit of a pouch out of it. Um, the small intestine actually does a lot of what the stomach does already. The only things that the small intestine can't absorb are iron and vitamin B12. So I have to supplement for those. Um, and I guess the other thing is have at least to begin with having very small meals, chewing all your food very carefully, um, and being very careful when you do eat. Over time, that pouch that they've built expands out, so it's not you can eat larger meals. I'm eating essentially meals close to what I was eating at the time, though I guess I am a lot thinner than I was back then. I think I was at my top weight, I was over 100 kgs, which is, kind of big. I'm not sure what's that, over 200 pounds probably. Um, so I was a big boy. So I actually think in a lot of ways losing my stomach actually helped me, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
interesting. It
Like,
does. And I guess, as an assumption that I incorrectly made is that my hunger comes due to the fact that I'm feeling something in my stomach, but then maybe hunger is more of a whole body thing. Maybe hunger comes because, like, obviously the body needs energy. So, or we would be craving energy. And if we go without food for a long period of time, that hunger feeling. And I guess it's obviously not just the stomach, because the fact that your answer was that you kind of always feel hungry means that the sensation of hunger doesn't leave the body if the stomach is removed. Am I right?
I guess my understanding though is other people without stomachs might have completely different
Yeah, understood. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether it's something with, because I think in some cases that they might touch the vagus nerve or something like that. I'm I'm not a medical expert, so I probably
That's
shouldn't be.
interesting. Yeah,
But
I hear you.
yeah, I my understanding is some people might not feel any hunger at all, but I know for me, I'm pretty much hungry all the time,
All right. Yeah.
which is not a good combination of not having a stomach and always being hungry. So the phrase
I,
"eyes bigger than your stomach" are literally true.
yeah. Oh man, I hear you. Well, that's incredible. And so this is 15 years ago. Did I hear
Hmm.
that right? Wow.
Yes, yes.
Congratulations. Incredible. So obviously you've adapted. You feel like you've adapted. I mean, is it something that's at the forefront of your mind each day when you wake up? I know one time when I had a surgery, the recovery process, it seemed like it was so all consuming to me and my thoughts, and now I never think about it, right? And there's like this process from the time that it occurs to now, and it's just not at the forefront of the mind. Do you feel like you're at that point where you don't really need to contemplate it, or is it always something that does have to be attended to on some level?
I wouldn't say so much that it's something that needs to be attended to constantly, but it is something that I notice all the time. There is
Yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of tightness,
Yeah.
um, where that joint is. So it's something I always notice. And then obviously when I do eat, if I'm not careful, or just after lunch, I'll be sitting there. My eyes might be bulging a little bit. I might be looking a little bit uncomfortable. I'm perfectly fine, but yeah, just always a little bit of a reminder that there's something going on there.
Understood. Understood. I appreciate your honesty. Thank you so much. That's amazing, Ron. What about how has your yoga practice in relation to, I mean, you had already touched a little bit upon how the philosophical side had helped you in relation to the mental health component. Can you talk a little bit about the hatha yoga aspect or like the physical practice aspect? And you made mention how much you appreciate working in the aerial hammock. Maybe you could touch a little bit upon how you are able to utilize that just in relation to stretching your body and what moving your body
Mhm.
feels like and how that's playing out.
I think probably now I'm more physical than ever. Um, I guess the yoga I do practice though is very gentle. At least the yoga I teach is very gentle. I teach a gentle yoga class. Um, I don't teach aerial yoga so much these days, but still do occasionally. But I guess there as well, my approach is generally quite gentle. But I also go to the gym and I've just taken up running as well. So I guess I'd say I'm pretty active.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I do enjoy the feeling of being in my body, if that makes sense. So
it does.
yeah.
Amazing. Can you tell me, I love teaching and practicing gentle yoga. Can you tell me a little bit more about what your intention is when you begin teaching a class? Do you have
Hmm.
a certain goal that you're aiming to bring your students toward or the people that are practicing with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I start off with a very gentle meditation. I like everyone to just begin to feel into their bodies, maybe start noticing where they're at, in their mind, their breath. And from there, I like to just keep things really calm, and get everyone into you know, I guess very, very calm state. And then we'll start with a little bit of gentle movement, a little bit of breath awareness, a little bit of flowing movement, and then we'll actually spend the rest of the class sort of on the floor. Um, and it doesn't get much more, I guess. I guess I'm not articulating myself that well, but not a lot more active from there. So I like to start the class slow, make it even slower, and then finish off with I guess, Shavasana that's like 10, 15 minutes or so. So yeah,
Yeah.
my intention is to have a nice, calm environment where everyone can just sort of, um, find their bliss, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. Ron, can you share? I had an opportunity to live in Hawaii for a
Hmm.
year, and I loved every opportunity that I had to interact with the locals and the indigenous population. Can you tell me a little bit about your Maori culture and anything that we could learn about your tradition that would help us to just have a little insight?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm Maori. I'm um, from a few iwi or tribes on the west coast of the North Island. So Ngāti Tama, Ngāti Ruanui, Te Atiawa. Um, my father is European, Caucasian. My mother is Maori. So I grew up in a kind of a mixed culture household. But when I was young, we would spend a lot of time at our marae, which is, I guess, a meeting place or, a cultural area. Um, so I was quite exposed to, our culture, our language. I'm not fluent in Te Reo Māori. I'm not a fluent speaker of the language. Um, I guess the generations after me, the government actually brought in a, I guess preschools called kohanga reo, where kids were immersed in Māori language. So I'm a little bit envious of that. Um, but I guess in New Zealand, Māori and English are kind of used almost interchangeably in some senses. So that's a great thing. But I have lots of memories of being around my family. And there's a huge sense of community there. Everyone pitches in when it comes to to feeding everyone, to I guess cleaning up afterwards, doing the dishes, you know, and it's a very hospitable culture. They have a concept called uh, is it, um, I think it's tanga. I could be wrong there, but it's about hospitality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, a big part of Māori culture is hospitality, and I guess one thing about Māori that you see a lot of imagery of Māori doing the haka, being fierce warriors, that kind of thing. Well, I have ancestors who were, I guess, pacifists, if that makes sense.
Mm,
And
mm,
um, there's, in particular, there's uh, Te Whiti and Tohu. I'm a descendant of Tohu, and they were Christians, and they considered themselves prophets, but they lived in a small village called Pariaka, which was being harassed by English troops. So they were being, I guess, shot with cannons and all sorts of horrible things. But they preached a philosophy of pacifism and non-resistance, many years before Gandhi even. So I think that there's a powerful culture there of resistance and strength and resilience that isn't so much talked about in favor of the fierce warrior aspect of Māoridom. So I don't know. I think that's just something we should be talking about more.
amazing, Ron. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That is so interesting. I I've I'm curious how you'll react to the first understanding of Maori culture I had was watching Once Were Warriors, which was a film that was made that depicts a kind of heavy situation in it where if someone grows up in a situation where there's a lot of abuse and difficult, that it could turn into a very abusive type of lifestyle. And I love that you're bringing attention to the representations that we see of like fierce, but also that you're talking about. But there also was pacifism too, because maybe what if there's one ideology of only this fierce thing that creates it does not a very a full well-rounded picture of the history and the beliefs of a culture. So that's really fascinating to me. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, no worries. And yeah, I actually, that is a great movie, Once We're Warriors. But yeah, I do think it sort of does focus on an aspect that is not great. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen or it isn't a situation that exists. But um, like any culture, there's a rich heritage there, and multiple aspects that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. How often do you get a chance to travel back there? Am I correct that you were there recently? I feel like in our email conversations prior to meeting up here today, did you mention you were traveling there?
I'll be heading over there next week, actually.
Oh,
So I'm
gotcha.
just, yeah, it's just a short trip to visit my family. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be good.
Do you mind if I ask how your mom is doing? Is she
Oh, look, she's in a fairly late stage of dementia now. Unfortunately, she's living in a home. She needs full-time care. And we actually headed over Christmas, but uh, due to some issues, uh the place she's at was under lockdown, so I couldn't visit her, and that's part of the reason I'm going back. I sort of
understood?
would like to
Understood.
see my mum.
Yeah. Man, Ron, I feel for you. My mom passed from Alzheimer's and she in this room right here where I'm sitting, her and my dad came and practiced yoga with me for we've been open here for 20 years, so they came every day for like 16 years before she passed away. So I watched her go through the whole thing and man, I'm really sorry. So I'm so excited though to hear that you get to go back and be present. And it's really amazing. I hope you don't mind me talking about this, but one thing that uh, noticed was that when my mom stopped, remembering my children's names, and you get to that point where I started wondering how much of recognition is there, like how much is there still, and then I recently came across a situation where a husband was talking about him caretaking his wife who was undergoing memory care, and that he didn't think she could. Communicate, but through a certain situation, he was able to telepathically communicate with her, which then triggered me upon hearing that, remembering a moment before my mom passed where I did feel like even though she wasn't there, she was, and that there still is communication ability, but done on a different level. So I guess I just mentioned that because I'm excited to hear that you're going to get a chance to spend time with her, and I would love to hear afterward what your experience is like, and just in relation to all that. But anyhow, hopefully I didn't digress too far there.
No, no, and I just want to say I'm sorry to hear about your mother as well,
Thank
and
you, thank you.
uh, I just know that even I actually think my mum's dementia was harder to deal with than my own cancer, if that makes sense.
It
It's
does.
such
It
a
does.
yeah, it's such a um immensely awful thing to happen to someone in my opinion. And yeah, I actually did have an experience with my mum, and it was sort of it was a couple of years ago, but I can't remember. We were having a conversation, and I can't remember what we were discussing exactly, but it was kind of, to me, it felt like mum was in her own way kind of saying goodbye to me, if that makes
It
sense.
does.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Indirectly, like the words weren't matching up with that, but the feeling.
yeah,
Wow. Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah. So,
that's
so
amazing.
yeah,
That gives me goosebumps. Yeah.
I
I
know
hear
it's
you.
pretty intense, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Well, man, I feel for you, but I'm also very excited for you. I don't know if that even makes sense, but just that you still have time. You're going to be able to go and travel over there, and
Yeah,
hopefully the lockdown situation won't some weird thing won't happen as well there.
yeah. No, I hope so too. But yeah, it should be good.
Cool, man. Well, I feel like we got a chance to touch upon a lot of your background, and I really appreciate how honest and forthright with me. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me, Ron.
Oh,
Sorry.
no worries. No worries.
That's
Thank
it,
you.
Ran. I already thank you for correcting me initially. I came and I said, "Nice to meet you,
Oh
Rain,"
no.
and you're like, "No, man, it's Ron." So
Well, sometimes when you don't correct someone, it just sort of goes on and the moment's passed when you can actually
oh
correct
yeah,
them.
it's so
And
true, so true. My wife's name is Tamara, and she's like, "It's Tamara, it's Tamara." And so someone says Tamara or something, she's like, "No, that's not it." Yeah, I hear you. That's cool. Well, I mean, just to kind of do a quick little recap, everyone can find you at soundmadescene.com.
hmm
Anyone that's interested or has curiosity and or is working with technology and podcasting and marketing and all this stuff that we need to do. Uh,
hmm
we can find you at Flow Artist Podcast with both you and Joe hosting your
hmm
own podcast show. And also Guest Made Simple, which I know you're soft launching, but
hmm
if we go to that URL, is it Guest Made Simple? Ooh, I wonder.
.com.
.com. Is there a .au at the end of this or no?
Nope,
Did you
no,
know?
just the .com.
No. Cool. And then also the Eight Limbs of Aerial Yoga book is now available. So I highly recommend everybody to check that out. Ron, is there anything else I missed or anything else you'd like to mention before we exit?
I think you've covered everything there, and I just wanted to thank you again for having me on your podcast. It's been a great conversation. I've had a whole lot of fun.
Thank you, Ron. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing everything. And I hope one day I get a chance to meet both of you in person. If you all are ever traveling through the US, we would love to host you here in Florida. And if I get a chance to make it over there again, I would love to come visit you guys.
Absolutely. And hopefully we get to talk to you on our podcast soon.
Thank you. I'm going to follow through now, and also with more appreciation to the workflow of organizing the episode. That's something I'm really excited about because I did get a chance to start, and I went, and I liked the way that I'm guessing that must be guess made simple. Are you already implementing that on your own website? Because when I went in, you had a questionnaire place, a place that I could um, kind of send over. I don't know. I don't think. Oh, I didn't go all the way through. I got started, and then I got to follow through and finish here. And but I saw that I could put a picture in and something of that nature. I didn't see the calendar part yet. Is that something that would, as I follow the steps through, will eventually get to, or at what stage are
I,
you using it?
I'm not sure we have been using that yet, but I'll check with Joe. But yeah, we should have it up and running pretty soon, so we can
Cool, cool.
get you all through that.
Awesome. Well, I want to be your, I want to test it out and give it a try as
Cool.
soon as yeah, I really want, yeah, thank you so much. All these like ideas of ways to make this a little bit more where I can just focus on this fun part of doing the actual podcasting and all the administrative tedious stuff the load could be lightened a little bit, which would be amazing.
No worries. Yeah, no, be great.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.